Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Bar podcast. I'm your host, Anissa Tova. And today I am really privileged to have Jodi Donato with me here. And she is not only distinguished family law and divorce attorney, founder of Donato Law Firm based on Long Island, but just phenomenal human being, extremely caring, vivacious, full of energy. I don't know where she gets it, and her dedication to her profession, community service, it really is inspiring. Um, we just chatted a little bit about her presidency of the Suffolk County Women's Bar Association. She has been nominated for treasurer of the Women's Bar Association of the state of New York. But beyond her legal practice, she's also a mock trial judge. She's a mentor. I mean, there's just so many layers to this incredible woman. I cannot wait to dive in. Jodi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Denise. How are you today?
I am terrific. I really am. And, it's really an honor, to connect with women like you. Tell me your story. You are just, you have just so many layers.
So I don't know where to begin. I wanted to be a lawyer from when I was about 12 years old.
Wow.
Um, and I used to always read all the criminal cases in Newsday at the time, all through my teen years. Um, and when I first, after I graduated college, I took a gap year and I was actually supposed to start law school at Pepperdine University over in California that August. But I was 21 years old. It was the summer. I was having tons of fun with my friends, going out every night. It was typical, like Long Island in the 80s fun. And I decided not to go at that time. And interestingly enough, the day I would have started school at Pepperdine, I was terminated from my job that I had. So I kind of saw that as like a little bit of an omen or
Yeah.
something. I don't know what. But I moved on. And when I was 25, I decided to go to school, to law school. And I went to Toro. And I started Toro the same month that my son turned two. I
Mm.
was a single mom at the time. And I started out in their part-time night program and I switched to full-time days and I graduated in 2.5 years.
How? Seriously, that's incredible. How did you
um,
do that?
you know, I was motivated. I went through the summer. I did some independent study work. At night I would study at the dining room table and I would give Stephen a workbook, things to work on. He was in preschool doing his letters, whatnot. When he finished, he used to stand on the chair behind me with his arms around my neck while I was doing my work.
Wow.
Um, you know, so he's 36 now and he's actually a court officer over in Central Islip.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and he has a bachelor's degree and a paralegal certificate. He tossed around the idea of law school, but when he tossed it around, he was also engaged in planning his wedding, and I told him that it was a crazy idea at that time to do that.
Yeah. That's not an easy task. There's so many people who just use it as an excuse, and would not throw themselves in it. That's wow. So how did you end up in a family law?
So that's interesting. I started out wanting to be a criminal law attorney. I wanted to be a defense attorney. Like I said, I used to read all
Mm,
the criminal cases.
mm,
Um, and it's funny, I never realized it at the time, but I was kind of thinking about my background in preparation for this.
mm,
And I think it dawned on me that I think maybe the impetus for that was when I was 11, my mother was the victim of an attempted home invasion.
Mm.
And about so the following spring, the detective called her and said, "Oh, listen, we found him. We want you to do a lineup, photo array." And they were in the dining room, and I was standing in the kitchen, and I was watching through the doorway. And where they were sitting, I could see the two detectives' faces, and my mother's back was to me. And she's looking at the photos, and she looks at them and says, "What are you trying to pull?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" And she said, "This is the same guy in 6 different photos." And I saw their faces, they were in shock. And, as a kid, that stuck with me, and I really didn't think about it again until I was in law school, and I was in criminal law, and you're learning about photo lineups, and I'm thinking, I would have never been able to pick out that that was the same face. I don't have that skill, She could,
Yeah.
like, see
Wow.
facial features. I do not see that. That's not a skill I have. I would be a horrible eyewitness because, um and I guess that stuck with me because when I was in law school, I kept thinking, wow, if someone gets on the stand and they're asked, how many photos were you shown? I was shown 6 photos. And did you pick out one? Yes, I picked out one. And I'm thinking that maybe that, when I think about when I started following criminal cases in the newspaper, it was right after that. So,
Mm.
clearly, I think that had something to do with it. And so I had put in for an internship with Lou Silverman, who was a support magistrate at the time, and I got it. And I interned in family court and with Lou and a bunch of the judges then, Judge Freundlich. Um, and when I came out, I still wasn't looking to go into family law,
Mm.
but I kind of fell into it. And my first job out of school was with a mat firm. And then my next job after that, I called him up and I said, well, look, I'm an attorney. I can do this, this, and this. And it turned out that his matrimonial attorney had just been appointed a support magistrate. And that's the former Honorable Maddie Fitzgibbon. And she was great because I didn't even know her. And she would come back to the office. She gave me all her books when she went to district court. And so I just fell into matrimonial law. And, I'm a firm believer in things happen for a reason and they work out the way they're meant to be.
You know, what's incredible about you is that you were allowing to let things, events unfold as you were drawn to something. It's almost as if you were following your instinct, didn't resist to what was in front of you. Yeah, that's pretty incredible path. And then connecting the dots with
Yeah.
that story with your mom. Um, by the way, I'm very sorry to hear about your mom's passing.
Oh,
That's
thank you.
that's just very difficult.
Thank you. She had a hard life, but she enjoyed life. She knew how to enjoy life. The last 6 months or so wasn't great, last year. Um, there was one time I was visiting her and she was telling the staff that I was a judge. So I laughed and I looked
Oh,
at them and said, "No, I'm a lawyer."
oh,
Another time she told them my daughter was a doctor. I said, "No, she's a radiology tech." But
oh, yeah. Well, it sounds like you're sort of continuing her legacy. It sounds like a determined woman, and I, listen, I know it's not easy. You're involved in community and volunteering, and as a president of the Suffolk Women's Bar Association. I asked you earlier, does it sometimes feel like you are herding cats? Because you strike me as a doer. Why is that important to you to be involved in a community like that?
um, I think it's just ingrained in me. My mother was very involved when I was growing up, so clearly I learned from her. I think it's important to give back. It's important to help. Um, and I've been doing that in my community for years when my children were younger. Um, once they were in college, it freed me up. Prior to that, I was doing Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, PTA, church, religion, although I still teach religion. Um, community events, soccer, that was important to me when they were in school, and I was involved in all of that. Once I wanted to get involved in the bar associations more, but I had to pick and choose. There
Mm,
was only so much of me to go around and so many
yeah.
hours in a day. So once they were in college, it freed me up to get involved on this level.
How do you think your work as a matrimonial attorney impacted your parenting over time?
Um, that's an interesting question. Well, when my oldest son was younger, I used to threaten him with taking him to Judge Freundlich and having him put him in a holding cell if he didn't listen to me.
Did it work?
It did actually, because he had come to court with me quite a lot when he was little. Um,
That's funny.
so that actually did work. With my other two, I think it's funny. It kind of rubbed off on them. I mean, clearly they were listening to me. When my youngest was in fourth grade, fifth grade, he wanted to write a will to leave everything he had to his brother. And my oldest wanted to leave everything to his brother and sister. When my youngest was in third grade, he came home telling me that he wrote up an agreement between two of his friends in class because the boy liked the girl and he was bothering her too much. So he wrote an agreement between them.
Wow.
So
It
clearly it
definitely rubbed off.
somehow impacted my
Yeah.
parenting because they were taking this to
Yeah.
school with them.
Wow. That is so funny. You know what? Part of the reason why I started this podcast is to sort of bring out the humanness. And I'm listening to you. I mean, you're a mom, you're a community trailblazer, and so relatable, and just amazing human being all the way around. And sometimes the public does not see it, right? Because you're dealing with
Mhm,
people who are so there's so much so it's laden with emotions, and sometimes you get to see their shadow side. But stepping back in, just kind of looking at circle of your colleagues in the legal community, what do
mhm,
you think it would take for the legal professionals to start seeing themselves as humans, outside of the court, and as well as inside. Because I personally don't like the word adversary, um,
mhm.
because we're all human beings, and sometimes have a tendency to take on other people's emotions.
Right. So I have to say, I think we are very lucky here in Suffolk County. When I first started practicing, I was told this, and I've seen it myself, especially within the matrimonial bar. I think we have a very big camaraderie, and there are always outliers to that. But for the most part, I mean, I think that we all realize that we're going to be coming up against each other more frequently than this one case. And we need to show respect and kindness and humanness. And our bench out here is also, we're very fortunate. And years ago I started terming it the kinder, gentler practice of Suffolk. you know we can tell one of our judges, hey, listen, I can't do that date. Why not? I'm going with my kids. I'm going with my grandkids. Now I say I'm going with my grandkids. Um, you know, I remember the first time I was terrified and I was like, I can't, I need to reschedule the PC. And the law secretary was like, but why? Why? And I was like, it's the Bronx Zoo trip and every kid has to have a parent. She's like, well, why didn't you say that in the first place? You know?
Wow. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
this was many years ago where, my youngest was second grade. It was a ritual in the school. And, She's like, "Of course you'll get an adjournment," and here I am trying to just act all professional and not say that, I have a life or that there's something personal.
Yeah.
Um, I
I'm
mean,
I'm glad.
we're all human. We all get sick. We all,
Yeah.
lose employees, things like that. And I think most of us realize it and are accommodating to each other. Like I said, I think we're very lucky out here in Suffolk.
Set a great example, and I wanted to hear you say that because you truly do. I know I made many friends in this community, and it's so true. And then through the stories to hear what someone's going through when they're willing to share, be vulnerable, and it really shows, that we don't have to put on this mask. So that's that no, that is truly wonderful. And then what would you say your pet peeve is? One thing basically that's hard for you to not to get triggered.
Oh, um, well, anyone who knows me, and of course, me speaking in this podcast is not the way I normally speak. I tend to speak very loudly, and probably my one pet peeve is when someone doesn't know me and they tell me to stop yelling at them, and I say, "I'm not
Wait, you're not
yelling at you.
yelling.
This is the way I talk." I'm not
You're
yelling.
just
I'm Italian.
that's right. You're just passionate, right?
And whenever
Yeah.
there's someone new and I'm like, "No, this is the way I talk." And they're like, "No." And I've had court officers, clerks go, "Yeah, it is. She's not yelling at you."
That is actually funny because when I moved to New York from Colorado, I used to think everybody's yelling. It's like, what is this? Why are you so pissed off? And that's just being passionate, being um yeah, that is actually funny. So what do you do when you're not working? You have grandkids, so I'm sure
I
they
have
keep you busy.
grandkids. Yes, I have 3 grandkids. They're, 3, 6.5, and 8.5. 2 girls, 1 boy. And, I love to I love to do things with them, take them places. Matter of fact, we're going to Harry Potter on the 23rd.
Wow.
Actually, this Thursday, I'm taking them and my daughter-in-law. We're going to the American Dream Mall. We're gonna go to Big Snow and Nickelodeon Park. I just love doing things with them and showing them things, and, I have a close-knit group of friends. I have friends I'm friends with from high school. We try to get together, like, once a month. Um,
Mm.
you know, I I have my TV shows that I love, that I record. I love
Which
old
are
shows.
which are
So so I love old shows. I'm a big I Love Lucy fan, a big Lucille Ball fan. I have been to the Lucy Desi Museum and, the park and saw her statue and all those things in Jamestown. And, so my regular shows, as someone pointed out to me, so the regular shows that are airing now that I like to watch are NCIS, FBI, Law and Order SVU, Blue Bloods,
okay,
SWAT. So,
there's a pattern.
and I actually love word games and word puzzles. So you'll always see me playing a word game or a word puzzle on my phone when I'm
That
just
doesn't
waiting in court.
that doesn't surprise me. That just kind of follows the theme, the line of thinking and since you were 11 years old. Um, it's interesting. I actually like some of the same shows that you mentioned because my grandpa, I remember a moment back in Eastern Europe, it was so comforting to me. He would get into a criminal, novels or crime stories, I should say, just reading and sometimes watching, and that's something that I bring to today. I really enjoy it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So even some of the British shows,
Mhm.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Um,
I love reading too. So, and I read all crime novels, Michael Connelly, Brad Thor, David Baldacci, Catherine Coulter, Karen Slaughter.
Yep. Those are great.
Crime, spies, you name it.
Yeah.
Vince Flynn,
Yeah.
I can get
So,
lost in a book.
do you actually read physical book or do you have
I
Audible
do, I
book?
love a physical
Yeah.
book. I will read an ebook if I'm traveling or something, but I love the physical book.
Hmm. What would be your On a final note, what would be your advice for incoming lawyers?
Get involved in the local bar, get to know people, get to know other attorneys, get to know the judges, um, let them get to know you because that will help your credibility.
Hmm. That's
And
interesting. Go ahead.
as one veteran attorney said to me, this is a profession, you're doing this to make money. But if you're not making money, at least have fun doing it.
That's honest.
Mhm.
I like what you said about get to know the other professionals, find a mentor, and also let the judges get to know you, because there's this ongoing debate whether, among I think it's primarily the younger attorneys, should we show up in
Mhm.
person? Can we just show up virtually? Sure, virtual programming and events, there's a certain element of convenience, but it does not replace what you just mentioned. Is is
Mhm.
um is to actually meet someone physically and get to know them. And especially you describing a close-knit community, because you can go and find bar association just about anywhere. I'll actually there was a moment and I was very impressed. I was where were we? I think it was oh yeah, it was the New York State Bar Association event in a city. I think it was last month of February, I can't remember now. And that was an after event, like a reception, and this younger gentleman just walks in, clearly just looking around, looked like he was much younger than the rest of the crowd, and it appeared like he was looking for somebody. And I said, "So who are you looking for?" And he said, "I'm just here to introduce myself." And it turns out that he was thinking about getting into a law, and he researched and somehow found out about this event, and he just walked in and started introducing himself and was just asking a few attorneys about what it was like, and had very I mean, he was pretty shy, but he pressed through it, and it was so admirable. And I think many people are afraid to be seen, because it's so much easier to do it virtually. So that's a great advice. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing that he did that. That's really
Yeah,
impressive.
courageous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jody, your journey is a testament of a power of resilience, and giving yourself to the community. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, wisdom, and your vision with us.
Thank you.
And to our viewers and listeners, to learn more about Jody Ann Donato and her remarkable work and how to get a hold of her, make sure to click her bio link below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, Beyond the Bar Podcast. Follow us on all social media channels. And until next time, keep curious and be inspired.